Welcome back to the show!
Welcome back to the show!
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan for the fan. As always, we are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. As you'll notice, my tag team partner, Nick Bull, Mr. Never Wrong, is not with us this evening. He was given some time off to celebrate his son's graduation, so congratulations to Landon Bull. But I've got a great show planned. I'm excited for our guest. Before we get him in the studio, have to give a huge shout out to Absolute Pro Wrestling last night for an amazing show, another pre-show podcast party, which was fantastic. Love those guys out there, Jason and everybody. Thank you for having me out there and having us do another one of those pre-shows. But speaking of Absolute Pro Wrestling, excuse me, we have a now former Absolute Pro Wrestling champion, and I hope that doesn't hit a sore spot for him because he just is fresh off his title reign, losing to Brandon the Shank Eubanks last night. But I'm going to welcome in to the studio one Aaron Von Baron. I'm excited. Aaron, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, how are you, Chris?
I'm doing good. Welcome to Card Subject to Change.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Happy to have you on. And this is the point in the interview where Nick will usually ask the first question, and it's the same question for all of our first-time guests. So I'm just going to pull the trigger. What got you into pro wrestling? What hooked you into this business?
So my oldest memory of pro wrestling was something to do with Hulk Hogan. I can't even remember. It was probably a Saturday night main event or something. But then the next memory I have is Shawn Michaels throwing Marty Jannetty through the glass at the barber shop.
Now, I'm going to hold that against you because Marty Jannetty threw himself through that window in an act of cowardice.
That is fair.
I will stand by that to my grave.
That is true. That's true. But yeah, and from there, I mean, it was just, just the love of every aspect of it, it's superheroes, it's athletes, it's everything all rolled up into one that, a little boy could want.
Absolutely. So who did you gravitate towards? You mentioned Shawn Michaels. That's a great name to bring up. Who are some of your favorites growing up?
Yeah. So my favorites, Hulk Hogan, no matter what, everyone hates him now. I still think he's one of the greatest of all time. Shawn Michaels, one of the greatest of all time. Bret Hart, one of the greatest athletes of all time. Mr. Perfect was up there. And I got to even say, and a lot of the guys back in the day after I started, they used to compare me a lot to Chris Benoit. I used to love to watch him, especially in the late 90s WCW days. Then Chris Jericho. Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
You mentioned Benoit, and I will just go on record. I don't condone or agree with what he did.
Same.
That is just tragic and despicable act, but I can't knock his career. He was a brilliant in-ring performer. And I will always respect the in-ring performer, even if I don't care for the man himself. And I feel the same way. You mentioned Hogan. I feel the same way about him. He has done some things that I don't agree with in recent years, but he was pivotal in the business. The wrestling world would not be what it is today without Hulk Hogan.
Right.
So what was that crystallizing moment then in your life that just got you so hooked that you said, okay, I have to be a part of this?
So I'll be honest with you, like when I was a kid and when I have a visitor here, I got one of my cats in the background, but when I was a kid, I mean, I was a little stick, I mean, I was not very large. And even into my early 20s and stuff like that, I mean, I wasn't, I was like 120 pounds at one point. I was not big. And, I never thought that I could be a wrestler. I remember in probably around 2004 or so, my brother, who's like 6 foot and much larger than me, he was considering it. And I even thought, at the time, it's like, well, God, he's even too small for that. But then a few years later, it was probably around 2008, 2009, I discovered the Impact Pro Wrestling and 3X. And because I never knew anything about the independent scene, but I discovered Impact, and I started to watch some of the stuff up on YouTube, some of the Justin Decents and the Chance Cordovas on there. And I thought, wow, so they do this at a lower level, than like the WWF, WWE. And so I started to think, well, maybe it is an option. I remember I called TS Aggressor, Travis, at Impact, and I talked to him, and he kind of gave me the rundown on everything, and I thought about it, and obviously at that point in my life, I was not ready to do it. I was not in the shape for it, but that was where, again, that was where my brother came in, because he had gotten into working out, and he got me into working out, which led me to get where I thought I needed to be. But then also in between there, I went to college for a little bit and all that type of stuff. And after that, I'm like, okay, I did what, people think you should do. Now I'm going to go do what I want to do.
Right.
And I went to my first Impact show, and from there on I was hooked, and I signed up, like a week later or something. I don't even know. But, and then I started training in October, I think, or November of 2011.
Okay. What was training like for you? I mean, I know being in the Quad Cities, we have the Black and Brave Academy. We've talked to a multitude of Black and Brave graduates, and they talk about that day zero here, what they do at Black and Brave, and that just being basically the conditioning test. Can you do this?
Yep.
Talk about what it was like walking into training on that first day.
So I'll be honest, like with Impact, the thing with them was they didn't really do like, like I hear like a lot of the places will do like squats until you puke and can't get up and that type of stuff. And it was always more, you do that in your own time and make sure you're ready for the ring. But right when I got into the training, it was kind of a transition, like Travis and Johnny Fitness and those guys were kind of back, and the lead trainer became Ugly.
Okay.
And he was the lead trainer for a number of years there. He trained there today. But it was a lot of fun, every Saturday was something new. And I will say, as far as like a conditioning type thing, you can run all you want and you can do what you can to get it in shape for the ring, but nothing actually compares to when you're in there hitting the ropes and you're taking bumps and all that. I mean, the only way to do that is to be in the ring.
No, absolutely. And I've heard that from a number of people as well. You you don't know what it's like until you do it, and you can't really do it until you do it, right? So let's fast forward a little bit. Coming out of training, you're getting ready for your first match. Talk about where your first match was and what that experience was like walking into the arena and into the ring for the first time.
So when at Impact, they used to run like a monthly Saturday night show. Excuse me. And that was just how they did it up in Algona. And right when it was about time for my first match, they decided to start doing Saturday matinee shows like every week to get everybody more experience in front of a crowd. Now, so some of those shows, there'd only be 2 or 3 people. And, a couple of times we packed the place. But so I remember my first match, I wrestled the Playboy Anthony Draven. And I remember we just had a nice little solid match. I had a great time. I don't really remember a lot about it. I mean, that's been a while ago. But I do remember as far as the first match, I know he was happy with it. I was happy with it.
For sure. One thing that makes me think of, whether it's your first match, whether it's your most recent match, I know I used to ring announce. It's been probably 10, 12 years, but part of my job as a ring announcer, I have to feed the crowd and I feed off of the crowd. Yep. When you're out there in the ring, do you feel the crowd getting behind the match?
Oh yeah, 100%.
What does that do to fuel you?
Well, for me, and especially for me as a heel, like if I hear the crowd, just like last night, like if I hear the crowd starting to get behind Shank, that's when I know it's time for him to come back up. Just for a little bit until, I shut him right back down.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
You know what I mean? Because that's what you want him to have. You don't want the audience just to be, like you're not listening to them, It's a playoff of each other, and they're part of the match too.
Yeah, I mean, you have to feel the crowd and you have to know what they're wanting, which you mentioned last night, that was a tremendous crowd. That was a tremendous show overall. And your match with Shank was arguably one of my favorites that I've seen live this year. It was really good. Which I'll kind of transition to this. So you and Shank kind of had parallels over the last couple of years as far as your journey to the Absolute Pro Wrestling Championship. Last year, you won the Winter Brawl Classic,
yep.
Which I was there for, and that was a little bit of a sneaky win. I love how that played out. You were injured, and then you weren't injured and came back to win.
Yep.
Talk about winning the Winter Brawl Classic and then what it meant to you to move on to eventually hold their championship belt.
Well, so to get into the backside of that, I had actually just came off of a hiatus of sorts. Back in the September of the previous year, my dad had passed away, and then in like February or so of that year, I had found just a fatty mass on my leg.
Ooh.
that they removed, and it was fine. It was nothing. And this is another thing. I'm type 1 diabetic.
Okay.
And so that's another thing. To the people out there who have it, you can do anything. But so they removed the little thing on my leg. They said that diabetics, they get them all the time, so it's nothing to worry about. But so they removed it, and then I had the healing time, and so it's like, well, how much do I really need to be in this match? And so we kind of came up with that idea where I get knocked through the middle rope, and then I come out at the end and knock Jay Wesley over, which was super because I know his family was in the front row, They were very upset.
Right there in his backyard, yeah.
Yeah. So it was great. I got a lot of heat for it, so that was good.
And then you would go on to face another Waterloo boy in the Ethan Everhart to win the title.
Yep.
What did it mean to you to be given the championship, to be given the chance to run with Absolute Pros Championship?
It meant the world, because I've been doing this for, I said I started in 2011, so 14 years roughly. And, most of those years I was at Impact. I ventured out a couple of times. I went to like Steel Domain up in Minnesota, and I did a show for IWA, so I did a couple of things outside of Impact, but, for the most part, it was with Impact. And, I always kind of felt like an underdog there. I won't say that they didn't appreciate me. That's not what I'm saying at all. Justin Decent and I, we formed the Cowboys from Hell, and we kind of ran the tag team division for quite a while there. And I had a lot of fun. But as far as being like the champion and all that for Impact, I never really had the opportunity for some reason or other. But so to finally come to that stage in my career, it meant the world, And Ethan Everhart, so he's a guy who trained with Impact. This is in the time I left wrestling for like a year or two, and he trained in that time, and I saw him at a couple Impact shows, and so I saw him kind of from when he started to get into the business to who he is now, and he's like the Terminator now. Yeah, he's jacked. He's he's like night and day to when he started, and it's amazing because he can do all kinds of things in the ring that I could never dream of. So props to you, Ethan, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Hell yeah. And I've seen Ethan. We've had Ethan on the show briefly on one of our pre-show podcasts up at APW. He's a great kid, and I love everything that he does.
Yeah, so that's another thing to speak of. Inside and outside the ring, Ethan is a solid guy.
Now, you mentioned another name, and I would feel remiss if we didn't talk about you and Justin Decent and your time with the Cowboys from Hell. First question I'll ask there, do you prefer working as a single? Do you prefer working as a tag? Do you have a preference, or what's the mentality like between the two different styles there?
Either or, I can do either, but tag matches are easier, because you spend half the match on the outside, waiting for a tag. And what I liked about tag matches is you get the dynamic of like you can do like funny spots where I don't know if you ever saw like the arm wringer spot or any of that where the partners get switched out and you do funny stuff with that.
Yeah.
But it adds a dynamic, not to toot my own horn, but I came up with one where, like I've got the opponent in an abdominal stretch, and I'm reaching back for Justin's hand, and he grabs me, and then the ref, he catches me almost, and then I do it again, and the second time, the opponent, he catches it, so he gets down, he makes his way over, he yanks down Justin, and he gets up there, and so the third time I go to reach back, I grab him, I'm like, oh shit, and I look back, and then he clocks me, and then I get hip tossed,
That's a great spot.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see. I haven't seen that live. I would love to see that. That's fantastic. I love the concept of it.
Yeah, we only got to do it a couple times, but it was a good time, and it always got over well.
I can imagine.
But yeah, to go back to it, I mean, Justin, I had a lot of fun with Justin, because it actually came about because we were kind of thrown into a random faction together called Crazy Sexy Cruel. It was me, Justin, and AJ Smooth. And at one point, even Nate Alston was thrown in there. But, and eventually, I think maybe AJ had become the champion or something. And so Justin and I became the tag team out of it. And so we were a tag team just, for a bit. And then, I don't know, Troy was on the fence of if he wanted to keep us a tag team or not. And he was kind of like, well, we'll have you guys wrestle each other. And whoever the fans are for, then we'll make him the face. And, whoever they boo, well, they'll be the heel. So we went out, we had a match, and but the thing was when I was up, the crowd was for me, and when he was up, the crowd was for him. So there wasn't really, a heel and a face. It was just, they kind of liked us both. It was almost like the John Cena heat,
Yeah.
And so after that match, we just stayed a tag team, and we became the Cowboys from Hell, and we went on from there,
Yeah, and you guys had a couple of matches recently there where you were opponents coming out of that, which I had the pleasure of being present for as well. That's one thing that I love about you don't want to see a tag team break up if they're a good tag team, but when the tag team breaks up, their matches are going to be good against each other because of the chemistry they've had from being in a team.
Right.
And I love watching those matches. I thought that was fantastic, and you guys had a lot of chemistry there as well. So the same can be said for you and Shank because so my knowledge of Iowa professional wrestling outside of the Quad Cities isn't as good as I'd like it to be, but you were part of the Stud Club, if I'm not mistaken, with Shank, correct?
Yep. Yeah, so when so after my hiatus from wrestling for a year or so, Mike Vandy, Jason Prentice, he called me up. He wanted me to come back into wrestling. At that time, he was running with the crew from Rugged Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, I got this idea, called the Stud Club. And it'd be me, him, Shank, Badger Calhoun, and a guy by the name of John George, I believe was his name, which he never really amounted to much in the Stud Club as per se, but so we went on and we did our thing. We had some revolving members in there. Cole Cannon was in there at one point, and basically we did the Stud Club thing for maybe like a year and a half over there at Rugged. And that was the whole thing. I mean, Shank and I were a tag team,
And then fast forward to last year when I was in Waterloo for another show and we had Shank on our pre-show. First of all, your presence when you are there, you are the most intimidating person in the world. I don't know how you pull that presence off because you're a really nice guy from every interaction that I've had with you, but you chased Zach Takis off the screen. You had me sitting there like not knowing what to do with myself, and you dressed down Shank. That was a great moment for me. Talk about moments like that where you get to do stuff outside the ring in situations where you wouldn't normally. It's not necessarily a match.
Mm-hmm. Well, honestly, there haven't been a lot of them over the years. Like with Impact, there wasn't a lot of the vignettes outside of the ring. I know, like myself and Jason Prentice would do some things here and there, but so up until Absolute, I mean, there wasn't a lot of that, and even still, there wasn't much. But that promo on Shank, I kind of had a running idea of what I wanted to say and what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? And it just kind of flowed together, and it came out exactly how I wanted it. So
I thought it turned out really well.
Yeah.
I know I enjoyed, that was one of my favorite moments of going to Absolute Pro, even though, you know, on screen I look like I'm scared shitless, for lack of better terms.
Right.
And like I said, you you chase Zach off the set completely.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you this. You know, I talk about your menacing presence here. You've worked face, you've worked heel. What drives you more? Do you like being the heel more often than not?
Yep.
So you feed into the boos from the crowd for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, I've done the face. I found it much more fun to be a heel.
You
That
can be a
being
lot
said,
more
you don't sell merch, but
right. But it gives you a little more freedom from what I've seen to do things that you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
You know, you can yell at the fans. I mean, you can coax the fans on either side of the fence, but
Sure.
you know, you can it seems a lot easier to get their attention when you're doing things they don't like rather than what they do, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, because everybody can be just the guy who comes out and, yeah, cheer for me. I'm this guy. You know, you see it all the time. So it's more fun to be the guy out there who, who does the dastardly thing that everybody hates.
What we always kind of transition and talk about like current product. Are you watching current product today? Are you watching anything today? What kind of gravitates or what grabs your attention in today's world?
Yeah, I do. So for the longest time, I wasn't really watching anything because, with streaming, and the price of cable, we opted toward streaming.
Right.
So, so we didn't have like USA or any of that to watch Monday Night Raw or anything like that up until they moved it to Netflix. So now me and the wife have been watching Raw, almost every week, which goes back to, when I was a kid, I don't think I missed Raw, up until maybe the mid, like 2014, probably. It was just a thing. I had to watch it. But so we've been watching that. We did try to watch AEW, and I'll be honest, I just couldn't really get into it. There's a lot of, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just one of those guys, but like, I loved it. Like when I'd see like Chris Jericho, I know there's a lot of talented individuals on there, and some of the matches are fun to watch, and others are just kind of like, what the hell am I watching?
The thing for me with AEW, and I hate to say it, they were a lot better a year or two ago, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, it just feels like it's more, here's a dream match that we think you want to watch, and not so much of, here's a story that we're going to get you captivated in and make you want to watch the match around the story. And for me, I would rather see the story than the match. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a good match. I don't gravitate towards Dave Meltzer and his star ratings. We poke fun of him all the time, but I can agree. I know a 5-star match when I see one, and I'll enjoy the match. But if there's not a reason to watch the match, what's the point?
Right, because to go along with that, like, I think it's Ricochet and I don't even remember the other guy's name, but they can do like where they handspring off the ropes and they're right where they need to be, and it looks like, I hate to say it, it looks way too choreographed for me. And that's just one person's opinion, but I would much prefer a match where it looks like it's real.
I can agree with that. Let me ask you this: talking about AEW, I know you're not very into the product, but as a now former champion, one thing that really bugs me about AEW is they've got their championship title, their main title, hidden away in a briefcase. It's been like this for almost a year, if not a year now.
Is that because of the CM Punk thing?
No.
Oh.
It's because of the story that John Moxley wants to tell.
Oh.
Is it's like he's holding the championship hostage. His I don't know if you call her a valet. I'll call her a valet. That's the best way I can describe her. But Marina Shafir carries a briefcase with her that allegedly has the title in it, but you don't see it on TV, and that irks me.
Yeah.
You know, as a champion, you should be
because then what's the point to watching?
Right.
Yeah.
You should be proud to be holding that belt, and that belt should be displayed prominently. If you're the promoter, you should have that belt as prominent as you can out there for people to see.
Right.
And I 100%.
Yeah, that's the reason. I mean, that's that's what the main event's about. Because that's the other thing that bothers me a lot about like WrestleMania. They're getting away from the title. You know what I mean? Like, while I can agree that storylines are important, but then make the storyline about the title.
Yeah, I can't.
The title should always be the main event. My opinion.
No, I agree. And WrestleMania, that was another thing that Nick and I would go back and forth on. Is you had night one with the triple threat between Punk, Roman, and Rollins. Yeah, that's a great match, but
it was.
There was no point to the match for them to have a match other than they just hate each other.
Right.
If that match had been like for a shot at the championship, it would have meant so much more.
Right. All it was for Paul Heyman.
Right.
Which I mean, in a way, is like it's a championship. So
yeah, I mean,
if you got him, then you got gold.
That's true. That you're not wrong, because he's the best manager in the business today, and probably number 2 on my all-time manager list, right behind Bobby Heenan.
Yep. I'd put Jason Prentice up there too.
Yeah, I can see that. I'll give props to Jason Prentice. He's fantastic. Man, my brain just froze. I had a place I was going, and then boop.
Oh yeah,
that happens sometimes.
Yep.
What is something like with you mentioned streaming, with the availability of wrestling, whether it's past, present, or upcoming stars? Wrestling is everywhere. You can click a button and you can watch anything you want. What's something that you can go back and just watch over and over again?
I mean, anything from my childhood. And to go with that, there's a lot of times when like Raw was on and Nitro was on, where I would miss Nitro because I flipped to Raw, because I always did. But so sometimes I can go back and watch the Nitro. I've gone back and rewatched some Nitros, some Raws, any of the WrestleManias. I mean, yeah, all that. It's probably the nostalgia, but also there's a lot of great wrestling in there.
Yeah. I mean, my current kick is I started watching Nitro from the beginning.
Yep.
I'm not too far into it. I just hit 96, so about 4 months.
Yep.
But I love going back and watching that old stuff and having it available. I was watching. Yet? Not yet. Couple months away. Right. I'm excited to get there, but guilty pleasure of mine. I'm excited for 1996 Uncensored.
Okay.
Which is by all means a terrible pay-per-view.
Okay. Which one was that?
Completely horrible. That is the one with the 3-tiered cage, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man against everyone else on the roster.
Yes, I watched that one a while. I mean, it's been a number of years ago, but I watched that match. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's so awful that it's fun to watch. But
Yeah,
I'm almost there. I'm in January. I think that was the February or early March pay-per-view of that year.
right.
And then everything turned around when Scott Hall showed up.
Well, and to go back to that, me as I was like 11 years old, and to like, I still vividly, I remember, like watching that, and like me and my brother, we thought it was real. Like,
Yeah.
Razor Ramon's, he's over there. They're there, to take over. Like the first probably 6 months, like it seemed like they did a good job because it seemed like it was real. Now, when it became a full on, NWO and then the red and black and all that, at that point, it's not real, but it was
Right.
still entertaining and still fun.
So in your opinion, when did the NWO jump the shark?
Oh God. A lot of people hate on the finger poke of doom.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't. Actually, I didn't hate that at the time because I was a fan of all of them. Like I loved Hogan, I loved Nash, I love all those guys. The only ones I didn't really care for, honestly, were like Sting and Lex Luger. I was just never a fan. But God, they probably, they jumped the shark when they just kept adding more and more people who didn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no offense to someone like Scott Flash Norton, but did he need to be in the NWO?
Right.
I will counter that though. I agree completely, but you wouldn't have had the Wolfpack if they hadn't been continuously adding members. And the Wolfpack is probably my favorite version of the NWO. That's just my opinion, but no, Lex Luger, Sting, Conan, sorry, Kevin Nash. I thought they were a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a great idea to take a heel faction and make them faces.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So I want to play a little fantasy booking with you as we kind of get a little further in here. Show's called Card Subject to Change for a reason.
Okay.
Is there a storyline that you have watched or seen that you would really want to be a part of that you think you could make a difference in?
Katie Vick.
Oh God. I was not expecting that.
That's all I'm going to say.
Wow. We're just going to leave that there. I'm going to leave that right over there.
Yep.
We're gonna steer away from that.
The best part is that you knew exactly what I was talking about. Some people,
oh yes,
yeah, some people might not.
If you don't know what we're talking about, use precaution or be prepared, but do some research. Go find it on your own. I'm not going to talk about it. No.
Yep.
What about opponents? Is there anyone past or present that you have not been in the ring with? Whether they've been on the indies, whether they're big names that you would like to step in the ring with, living or dead?
God. Well, yes, there is actually. Johnny Fitness.
Okay.
I don't know if you know who that is or not.
The name's familiar, but I'm having trouble placing it. So
he was one of the big names in the early years of Impact Pro Wrestling.
Okay. Right?
So when I started to train, he was just kind of getting out of it. Like he'd be there sometimes he wouldn't. But he, I don't know, he took a liking to me and he supported me. We became friends. But at that time, he was getting older. And, the only time I was ever in the ring with him was like in an 8-man. tag, which was fine, but you know, we didn't really have any interaction. But I would have liked to have gotten in there with him once.
Okay, I can see that. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Being a veteran of the business as you are, being around for 14 years. Two-part question here. What is the best advice that you have ever been given? And if you were to give any piece of advice to today's up-and-comers, what would it be?
These are the hard ones.
Yeah, we're getting tough now.
Yeah. The best piece of advice I've been given. I don't know if it's advice, but one thing I've learned is, and you may have heard this too, and it kind of goes along with, you know, like the Hulk Hogan type stuff, is a lot of times the guys who are the biggest faces are not very good people outside the ring. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. What would you tell those young kids that are coming into the business today?
The young kids, I would say to know that you have a bump card, because every time you take a bump, you're checking one off that list, and they add up really, really quick. And accidents can happen at any time. I mean, I broke my leg back in 2013. You know, I might have broken my foot last night. I don't know yet. But the point is, you know, and to work carefully with each other. You know, that's the main thing, is we all want to go home and be okay the next day.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, some people will say, that's fake, right? Well, no, it's not. It's 100% the opposite of that.
And I agree. I don't like that terminology of fake. Is it predetermined? Sure. But you're not going to see me even climbing up to, I won't even climb up on the first turnbuckle, let alone the second or the top.
Right.
And I'm damn sure I'm never going to jump off. And the idea of me taking a bump, at least right now, with the shape that I'm in,
Yep.
no. You gotta have some tremendous athleticism to do what you guys do in the ring.
Right, and I'll go back to that.
And
you
it
know,
shows. You know, you.
I was just gonna say, you know, for years, I was at the training at the vault with IPW with Bill Ugly. You know, getting the reps in, and later on helping the new guys. And there were lots of guys over the years who show up one day and you never see them again. You know what I mean? It's like you get a taste of it and you're like, oh yeah, I can't do this.
No, I understand that. Yeah, the extent of my in-ring career was with a microphone in my hand, and that's probably all it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting myself into a lot better shape. I don't know if you've seen Zach take us in my show or have heard of what we're doing. We're both accountability buddies, trying to keep ourselves on track, getting into better shape. I tend to fall off track more often than I care to admit. But that being said, I was down 17 pounds when I actually decided to weigh myself this week. So that was really good. So
yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm getting close to that first goal, which I'm over 400 pounds. That first goal is to be down right at that 399, and then we'll go from there.
Yep. And just keep going.
Doing my best. So probably going to take a walk if it's still nice enough when you and I are finished.
Yeah, it was a nice day out today.
Yeah, it was. I wish I'd walked earlier, but I had some things going on, so I wasn't able to.
Right.
Aaron, talk about, I know I said we usually try and go an hour or under. We're getting about that 45-minute mark. So where can people find you, find any of your matches if they want to watch them? Where can we find you out in the world of social media?
So there's a YouTube. I do have a YouTube account, but I believe I've only uploaded like one match on there or so. But if you type me into YouTube, I mean, there's a bunch of matches for APW, for IPW. That's where it's all at. It's right there.
Absolutely. Do you have a presence on like Instagram or anywhere, Facebook?
No, I
can
just
follow
got
him?
just the Facebook. I got the Aaron Von Baron page.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have
And
Instagram,
then I know
but
that's okay.
yeah.
I need to be more involved in Instagram, but everybody keeps telling me I need to be more involved in TikTok, and I just don't know that I'm there yet.
Nah, you don't want to be.
I know you and I talked a little bit about this off air, but I'm just going to throw this out there. What is next for Aaron Von Baron?
Yes. Well, so most people aren't aware, some are, but last night was officially, now as far as right now, you know how the business is, never say never, but it was officially my last match.
Wow. That's huge. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us here. Like you said, I know not too many people knew that before now, but now. So what is your next venture? Where do you go from here?
Well, I don't know. I mean, me and the wife, we want to do traveling and stuff like that. We've got some trips upcoming here, and it's a lot of that, spending time with the wife and the family, and
absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Anything? What are you going to miss most now that you're essentially leaving your boots in the ring, at least for the time being?
Most I'll miss is the friendships. Not that we won't still be friends, but if you're not at every show, then you're not going to see them as much.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about being a part of what we do, and particularly going to Absolute Pro is it's really, it's not just friendship, it's a family.
Yeah.
I love everybody I've interacted with there. I love that they have us be a part of things, and that's one of the things I love about doing this show is getting to know new people. Having, like yourself, you haven't been on before other than briefly on one of our pre-shows.
Yeah.
Getting to know new people, what their journey was like, and I look forward to doing that for however long God lets me. We'll put it that way.
Right. Many more years.
I hope so. Until Nick kicks me out when he gets tired of me.
Yeah, or that.
He our joke lately has been calling me the overbooker because I tend to book more shows than he cares to be on.
Yeah.
But my life is work, sleep, wrestling, repeat, pretty much.
Yeah. And if that's what you love, then do it,
So, well, Aaron, any final words you have for our audience? Any final thoughts today?
Not off the top of my head, other than, I just want to thank, all the promoters, all the wrestlers, anybody I've been in the ring with, and all the fans, who've been there, whether they cheered me or they booed me or whatever. I hope in some way or another I affected their life for the better. And, that's the main takeaway from all this, is to make people feel emotions,
Without a doubt. And I will thank you not only for being on the show today, appreciate you taking time and coming in, especially now that you've officially had your last match. I'm going to miss you in the ring because I've enjoyed the last year watching you. I wish I had seen more of you early on. I wish I had been out. This podcast has really gotten me out into more than just my local promotion, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to thank you so much for coming on, and if you ever feel like reminiscing and shooting the shit about wrestling, you are more than welcome to stop by anytime.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
absolutely. That is going to wrap things up for here today on Card Subject to Change. Little preview here. We have another episode on Tuesday with a gentleman who's based out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. He is the Angel of Mercy, Sean O'Reilly. I'm looking forward to that. Definitely getting outside of our region with someone from Wyoming. So I'm excited to learn his journey. So
yeah, it's a ways out.
just a little bit, just a little. Aaron, thank you again so much for coming on. Thank you all for tuning into Card Subject to Change. We are the podcast by the fan for the fan, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. We'll see you right here next week on Card Subject to Change.
Thank you, sir.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.